Hello, today's lesson is going to focus on how to prepare for a catered event. Now, preparing for a catered event is something that is very important for you to do because we're going to have so many catering events throughout this semester and next that it's essential that you know exactly what to do, and you can refer back to this so if there's any confusion or anything like that. So this is kind of help you understand your expectations for working these events. The first thing I want to kind of talk about is what types of events do we cater? Like, what are we doing essentially? Well, everything we cater is essentially a Leyden event. You really don't ever go outside the school, and the reason why is because there's lots of liabilities, so we stay in-house and we cater a lot of Leyden events. We've been slowly but surely taking over things that the cafeteria would cater, and now we're starting to cater some of them. So we cater breakfast, like the Exceptional Eagle breakfast. We do a couple different kinds of lunches. We've done author lunches. We've done the co-op lunch. We do box lunches, etc. We've done a lot of appetizers and like appetizer setups, dessert setups. We've done the Helen St. John. We do the Rotary top 10%. We've done cookie orders. Our possibilities for events are endless. So we really, we're open. Your teachers are innovative and creative. You guys are innovative and creative. So we can pretty much make anything and provide any type of service to our guests and customers. How do we prepare for these catered events? Well, the designated teacher is going to meet with the customer that wants to host the event. Usually the customer is going to have some type of a set budget, maybe say $500. Then what happens with that is when the teacher meets with the host, they say, okay, I have a $500 budget. In most cases, the host is going to let the teacher in the class kind of pick the menu based off of the budget. Sometimes the host has an idea of what they want to be served, especially if they have the same event every year. Sometimes they don't want to always have the same type of food. So as a class, if we are developing the menu, your teacher will have some ideas, and then we will collaboratively create the menu together. We will work out the cost of ingredients and then come up with a grand total for the food. We do not make any profit, so we are strictly charging our customers or the host for the cost of just the ingredients. They don't have to pay for actual service. That's part of what you get for your grade and the experience that you're going to, be able to take with you throughout your life. When you are putting together a grand total for the food, you have to take into account disposables, napkins, forks, plates, all of those things. In most cases, we use the nicer looking throwaway plastic plates and forks and whatnot. We usually are not going to use actual like glass or ceramic plates or anything like that. And the reason why is because we just don't have enough for some of our catered events. And then it also takes us hours to get everything clean if we use non-disposable plates and utensils. Depending on the event, we typically will, and how many people we're serving, we typically spend 1 to 3 days preparing for an event. If it's something like a breakfast, it's a one-day event. If it's an appetizer table, a sweet table, it's going to take us a couple of days because there's so much to prepare. Because in most cases, if it's like sweet table, appetizer table, we're serving hundreds of people. So during the catering event prep days, your teacher will designate you to work either maybe with your partner, your lab partner. Maybe you'll be working as a table. You might be doing something individually, but it's important that you're always on task. If you finish your first task, you need to make sure that you're asking the teacher, what would you like me to do next? You don't just stop. We have to get a lot of little tedious stuff done for catering events, so it's important that you are staying busy. As always, the safety and sanitation requirements not only need to hold true while you're preparing for events, but also when you're servicing them. When you're preparing for a catered event or just any other kind of lab, obviously make sure the food is cooked thoroughly. We have thermometers. If you're unsure, ask your teacher, etc. Okay? Avoid cross-contamination during food prep and during service. Make sure you are following and practicing all Illinois Food Code requirements, meaning, make sure if you don't know something, ask. If you're unsure of something, ask. When in doubt, especially during an event, if you think something's contaminated, we'll just throw it away. It is what it is, but we'd rather throw it away and be out of it than to get somebody sick. You will be provided a clean uniform to wear at your event. Chef pants, you'll wear your own closed-toed shoes, and then we'll provide you a black chef's jacket, and either you'll wear your black hat from class, as long as it's clean, or depending on the event, we also have chef hats that you will be able to wear. Your hair must be restrained, nothing in your face, so if you have long hair, make sure you have bobby pins, etc., and no jewelry is allowed at all. Okay? You will be provided gloves to wear when needed, and your teacher will help specify when those times are. You'll be provided service utensils to help service the food. We need to make sure we're keeping hot food hot and cold food cold, so we'll be using our insulated carriers, chafing dishes, all of those types of things for servicing our food. And do not let guests use the same plate for seconds. So when they come up, even though it's a regulated buffet and you're servicing the buffet, cross-contamination can still happen. So they need to take a new plate. That's something that we really need to regulate. But it should be easier because we have disposable plates. Now, how is scheduling of workers done? Now, all students will have the opportunity to work catering events. Now, these events take place at different times. Some events take place before school. Some events take place during school, some after school, and some even on the weekends. So depending on what your schedule is, you need to make sure that you are, being able to work at least. It says on here a minimum of 2 events. In most cases, we're probably going to have about 4 events scheduled per semester, if not more. With the new class running, I have a feeling that our catering business is going to grow. So I'm assuming at this point you're going to have to work half of the catered events, which is going to constitute for about 2. Now I know you're going to turn into me what your availability is, so then that will help with, like, if you're in right now if you're in a fall sport, obviously you're not going to be able to work the after school activities. So maybe if we have a during school activity, I would make sure that those people who are in fall sports have the opportunity to work the during the day events and things like that. If you're missing school, like if you're going to miss a day or part of a day, you'll be provided a field trip form that you need to turn in to be excused from the rest of your classes. Because even though it's in school, you still need to have that field trip form filled out for parent permission. You may, like I said, in most cases, you're probably going to have to work about 2 events. And then you may always work more than 2. So if you've worked your 2 events and you want to work a couple more, just talk to your teacher. And if we have the space for more workers or the need for more workers, then your teacher will absolutely schedule you for those events. Clothing requirements for catering. I already talked about this a little bit. You'll be provided the black chef jacket, chef pants, the hat. You wear your own gym shoes or closed-toed shoes. No jewelry. If you have any piercings, they should be covered, especially if they're visible, like if nose, lip, anything like that should be covered. You don't have to take it out, but it needs to be covered with like a band-aid or something like that. And then your hair must be tied back, not hanging in your face, as I already said. Now, there are lots of jobs before, during, after. Now, before an event, we obviously have to set up the room. And sometimes we can do this the day before an event, or sometimes we have to do it like the morning of. To set up the room, we set up the tables for guests. We set up the buffet line, a beverage station. We kind of set up whatever we need for that specific event. We always prepare our food ahead of time. Now, depending on what it is, sometimes the morning of, we just have to pop it in the oven. Sometimes it takes a little bit more, and we might have to saute something, assemble it, etc. So it's going to vary depending on the event. In most cases, we will need about 5 to 7 workers before an event to ensure that all the food is prepared properly and then also packaged. These students are also required to clean up all their equipment that they use during the food prep to actually get a grade for the event. Typically, we prepare for an event 2 hours before service time, sometimes longer depending on what the actual event is. So all of this could be modified, this information, depending on the event. And your teacher will provide you those guidelines and instructions for each event. Students can be scheduled just for the prep portion or for both the prep and the servicing. It's kind of, you'll work with it depending on what the needs of the event are. Here's some pictures of how to set up for an event, and here are some students that are using the different chafing dishes to create their buffet line. Here's another buffet setup that's already been put together, and you can see there's a beverage station, there's the chafing dishes, and then there's some openness for more food to be added. Here's the table setup for the actual guests. As you can see, sometimes we have table numbers, sometimes we put silverware on the table, sometimes we don't put silverware on the table. Sometimes we have individual menu cards at each guest sitting. Sometimes the guests receive a little take-home favor provided by the host, so you can kind of get a general idea of what these look like. Here's the actual individual table setting. This was for the co-op lunch. Moving on, some jobs during the actual catering event. Some students, depending on how many workers we have, will have a host which will greet the attendees and direct guests where to sit, because when people come into our school for like a catered lunch, they don't know their way around, so it's helpful to have a host that's going to, kind of direct people where to go. Then we have wait staff, which will either take drink orders and then deliver drink orders, which somewhat assists with the beverage station. Where the beverage station will actually be preparing the drinks and getting them ready, so the wait staff can just deliver them to the guests as they order them. Then we have buffers, which will clear the tables as people are finishing up their meals, especially like for something like the co-op lunch. We service the meal, and then we also have to serve cake. So we have to make sure that we have enough bussers to clear out the lunch service before we start delivering cake, or else there's so much garbage on their table, and we want to eliminate that. Bussers at the beginning of the catered service, they will also assist in taking drink orders. Okay, and then we have the actual servers, which, depending on the event, we have servers on the buffet line assigned to specific dishes that will portion off the food to our guests, and then also answer any questions that the guests may have. We typically try to label the chafing dishes so everyone knows what is being serviced. So if it is a self-service buffet, the guest still knows what's being serviced, and then we'll still assign like 1 or 2 students to stand by the buffet line for refilling, answering questions, etc. So it kind of depends on the actual event. Here's a picture. This is from the College Fair Luncheon at East Leyden. 2011. We served paninis, green beans, a pasta salad, and then we had cookies. So you can kind of get an idea for how to set it up, the logical sequence. You start with your sides, and then you move up to the entrees, etc. Here's another picture. This is a help yourself self-service buffet, and this is from the West Co-op Luncheon, where there's sandwiches. The guests can pick their own, and they're labeled, and then there's a variety of different salads. And what we have to save on time is the guests can go from both sides so that they can move through the line a lot quicker. When you have, if I back it up, when you have this form of service where there's one person assigned and they can only go through one line, this would be better for a smaller event. The College Fair Luncheon was only about 40 people, where the co-op luncheon was about 200, so we have to service them a lot quicker. If you were going to have a server assigned to a dish, you would have to have at least 2 lines set up for the service. So it depends on your, how much space you have and stuff like that. Here's another help yourself buffet, where there's plates underneath, there's the serving spoons, etc. So food's not getting everywhere, so it keeps it nice and clean and tidy. Here's a picture of a beverage table. Again, even though guests are not getting their own drinks, everything's still labeled so that they are aware of what their options are. Here's another, the beverage station. When we have a large event like the co-op luncheon, you have to start packaging up the drinks ahead of time to make sure that as soon as the guest comes in, they can get a drink so there's not a lot of waiting. We don't want the guests to wait because we really need to move them in and out in a very quick time period. Here's another picture of the beverage station getting the drinks ready. You can see there's cups, lids, straws, etc. These are all things that are going to be made available to the host, and then they can pick and choose like what they want for their service. Here's a picture of the wait staff and the bussers, and they kind of just go around and they clear the tables and just get drinks for any of the people if they need a refill or something like that. You're really there just to help. Here's another picture of other servers. As you can see, these servers are using more elegant form of a tray. It kind of depends on what's available. And then after the catering event, this is very important. You need to, if we have leftover food, we typically try to give it away to maintenance, or you guys can eat it. The students can eat it. If there is still leftover food, you need to make sure it's stored properly at the right temperatures, etc., cooled, following proper safety and sanitation. The student workers need to clean all the service equipment, put all the service equipment away, put any other equipment away. If everyone works together, this could go by really fast. If it could take a half hour. If you don't move fast because you're tired or something, the cleanup can take hours. So it's really important that you're motivated throughout the whole event and after the event to get everything put away. If you do not stay for the cleanup, you will not receive credit for working the event. You have to work the full event to make sure that you receive the credit. And cleanup is a part of that. So I kind of said a little bit about this before. How much do we charge for the catering events? Well, customers who order the food from our catering program, they only pay for the ingredients and the disposables. We don't charge anything extra. We make absolutely no profit because we are a nonprofit organization. So they are getting a steal by ordering food from us. After the event, your teacher will send an invoice, which is the bill, to the customer, and then the bill will be paid by the customer. Usually, because it's all in-house, it's a transfer of funds. Okay. Here's another picture. This is the college fair event from 2011, and this is everyone that worked that event that year. And that's what our buffet looks like. Here was a job fair event, and we did like a mock Javicino, smaller. But everyone kind of looks the same, and you all have a uniform. All right, thank you. I hope you look forward to working the catering events.